Yeah, it feels like we've been annihilated and are now waking up to something that's just the same. In a sense, we're just flogging a dead horse. You know what I mean?
Hey everyone, Mark Millar here, and this is the XS Noize Podcast. If it's your first time listening, you're very welcome, and if you're back for more, it's great to have you with me again. Last episode, I was chatting with filmmaker Oliver Murray about directing episode 9 of the Beatles anthology, so give that a listen if you haven't already. In this episode, we're stepping into a world that feels a bit too close to the one we're all living in. The Demise of Planet X, the new Sleaford Mods album, isn't just a record, it's a mood, a warning, and it lands right in the gut. My guest is Jason Williamson, one of the sharpest, most honest voices in British music, and we get into everything. The anxiety, the humour, the decay, the memories that still drive his writing, and how this album marks a real shift in their sound. If you're a long-time Sleaford Mods fan, you'll hear Jason in a new way today, and if the Demise of Planet X is your taste, this will drop you straight into its world. Alright, let's get into it. This is Jason Williamson of Sleaford Mods, the Demise of Planet X, here on the XS Noize Podcast. Enjoy. So hi Jason, welcome back to the XS Noize Podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
How you doing at the minute? Is everything alright?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's busy. Gearing up for touring again next year, all being well. Do you know what I mean? So, unless something happens, let's hope it doesn't. But yeah, all good.
Good. Before we get into the record, which I love, it's absolutely fantastic. Be honest, has anything annoyed you yet today?
Oh, God, yeah. Fucking hell. Loads. Some things I'd rather not say, but yeah, mostly, yeah. Things have annoyed me. I think tiredness has annoyed me more than anything.
Okay, well, let's talk about the album. It feels very lived in, like it's coming from a real place, not a concept that you've mapped out. So when did Planet X first click in your head as the next chapter for Sleaford Mods?
It just everything just feels so void, doesn't it? There's nothing to, although there are things to get into, to be inspired by, to believe. A lot of what I'm seeing on social media and the kind of energy when you go outside feels depleted, feels like in a constant state of repetition. It feels like it's an impossible argument all the time between people from varying opinion positions. Yeah, it feels like we've been annihilated and are now waking up to something that's just the same. In a sense, we're just flogging a dead horse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll get into that in detail with the songs. The album it arrived straight after UK Grime, which went to number 3, which your biggest successful album. Did that give you more freedom, or did it add pressure?
Yeah, but I mean, to be honest, no. All of them have given us the same scope. We haven't the label have never turned around to us and said, God, you made £9 million last year. Do what you fucking want. It was never like that. I don't know, actually. It's really hard with the charts. If you release something in the charts and there's not a lot going on that week, chances are you'll get a high placement, But I'm not looking at that this year. For some reason, it feels even harder now to get your music listened to and to be seen, even for established acts. People's attention spans are waning. People's attention spans are sometimes dictated to by how people perceive you online, etc. Your politics, whatever. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that.
Well, because of that, do you sort of feel yourself cutting back of what you're saying on social media?
Not so much. I mean, you've got to sort of say, well, if you put a stick into the hornet's nest, so to speak, you've got a choice of either staying there or moving away from it. And I think perhaps these days I'm less inclined to stay there. Do you know what I mean?
Do you feel like you're becoming a different kind of artist now, or just a more honest version of who you've always been?
I think, there's a good question, actually. Did I rely on the easy targets of right-wing politics, of the Conservative Party, of years of neoliberal strangulation? Did I rely on those too much back in the early days? I don't know, actually. I think perhaps, it occurred to me Sleaford Mods became Sleaford Mods because of my abject horror at minimum wage existence, which eventually led me to become more class conscious than I'd ever been in my entire life. So I don't know if there is an argument for that, but the other side of that is we've always been a very honest band. So maybe as I get older, I've become more relaxed with myself, and less bothered about what people think of me.
Right, let's step into the world of this album, because it's a wild, strange, fascinating place. You said that the spark came years ago, that nightclub in Grantham, like the world had ended, restarted, and gone rotten again. So take me back to that moment. What did you actually see that stuck with you?
Just, I saw, it's full of old school friends. At one point there was a porno actor in there that would frequent the place. It all just felt a bit Sodom and Gomorrah, and everyone was on some form of a drug, and it just felt like it ended. And yet we were resuscitated back into, a repeat of that. It's quite hard to explain in some respects, but the current situation, landscape, political, the domestic front in this country reminded me of the same thing. So I kind of put that feeling or that sentiment back into the new material we were working on. The Demise of Planet X is taken from a song called Chop, Chop, Chop that I wrote before I met Andrew, a Sleaford Mods song, from an album called The Originator. You can find it on YouTube. And it talks about the nightclub in question, which I think was called the Quilted Llama. I mean, I could be fucking wrong, but I've been telling everybody it's Quilted Llama. So if it isn't, I do apologise. But anyway, yeah. Well, it's not there anymore for one. So, but yes, I start the song Chop, Chop, Chop with this Demise of Planet X. And it really did occur to me that this same energy had returned with what I'm seeing now in front of me, with what we're all seeing, you know what I mean?
When did you realise the apocalypse, it's easy for me to say. When did you realise?
I don't even bother saying it. I don't even bother, you know what I mean?
The word that I'm trying to say, you know what it is? When did you realise that might actually feel the same, but worse, more like a slow drip than a big explosion? Just
in the ever-present decay that surrounds us. I was reading this book by Slavoj Žižek, and he quoted another philosopher, critical theorist. I forgot his name, but this guy come up with this term biomass. And biomass is basically the rubble of a destroyed landscape, through war, mixed in with flesh, with, corpses. And it occurred to me that this is something that is our wallpaper every day, even though it's not near us. It's something that is, on the news every day. I mean, obviously, you've probably got more first-hand experience of that than we have, here in the UK, or recent memory anyway, But, I'm talking about everything from the war in the Middle East, Sudan, Ukraine, anything. It's all slapped on the news. And it occurred to me that we were living in this constant state of anxiety with this visual wallpaper. And, let's face it, the kind of more privileged neighborhoods of the West are fast deteriorating as well, So altogether, it occurred to me that this was quite a thing, quite a subject to go down, really.
The album feels like a big creative leap. You know, was there a moment you realised, right, we're onto something different here?
Yeah, but, you know, I've got a real problem with, I automatically assume people aren't going to like it anyway, you know, for a variety of reasons. What matters is what I think, you know, what Andrew thinks. And yeah, I think we've achieved something different and very much up to the standard of what we normally do. But I'm really, you know, I'm in a really kind of self-depreciating position as regards how the public are going to view it, because it's a little bit of a veering from what everybody else, you know, there's too much of this fucking repetitive beats, post-punk bullshit, people just ranting, you know, it's fucking been done to death. And it's like, I just thought, although, you know, that is part of our, you know, we started that. We were doing it when most of these other fuckers were still trying to be Paul McCartney. It's like, you know, I'm conscious that to kind of carry this new message of what I see around me, something else needed to happen. You know what I mean?
You recorded the album across Abbey Road and other studios, and letting other engineers take over, which seems to have changed the chemistry. How much opened up when Andrew stepped back from engineering and focused purely on production with you?
Well, to be honest, he's always produced and engineered as well. So, but it occurred to me this time that there was a lot of time doing the engineering after we worked on a song, and that time could have probably been spent just further producing and moving on to the next idea, because we pay for a studio, so we pay for an engineer as well. An engineer comes with that, so why not let them do that? You know, to a certain degree, Andrew needs to engineer. I like the way he mixes, you know, and there is a part of production that happens when you do engineer, especially with how Andrew does it. And it's also about security. You know, if you got the fingers on the buttons, you just feel safer about everything. People work in different ways and use different systems. Sometimes it can become a little bit confusing. But saying that, you know, I thought it was worth pulling back and sort of saying to him, you know, do you fancy just sitting around here with me? You know, and it really did work. It freed up a lot of the mindset for him, I think.
Yeah, and I read that Andrew said that he felt freer on the record. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it did, you know, and to the point where he is convinced that we've forged a new path sonically, you know, and a new way of working. You know, the world's your oyster. Again, it's that eureka moment of not being confined to what we did for the last album or the album before that. Spare Ribs kind of ushered in this working with collaborators. We did that again with UK Grim. But I was conscious it needed to move away from that even, you know, so I think we've done that to a certain degree.
Yeah, some tracks started on acoustic guitar, which is unusual for you. You know, was that reconnecting with older instincts or just the easiest way to get ideas down?
They just sound great, don't they? And it's like, I was sending him crude ideas on acoustic guitar and he would then translate those in the studio and still use some of that guitar, you know. Or play it himself, you know what I mean, in the way that he does. I mean, I think it's really, you know, it's a kind of album that I think people initially will be a bit, but, you know, I think 2-3 years down the line, people are going to look at it as one of the more notable in our, you know, back catalogue.
I disagree. It was the most immediate record of yours so far that I've heard.
Thank you. Look at that. Woo!
It really was. But we'll get into that.
Yeah, you know how to treat a lady, don't you? Come on.
I'd stop at you. You mentioned collaborators. You've said the collaborators were almost like instruments chosen for the sound of their voice. You naturally hear people that way.
Yeah, especially if you're big fans of them, like Aldous Harding. You know, Sue Tompkins, we were introduced to via Jeanette Lee from Rough Trades Records. She suggested to us we should give Sue a listen, do you know what I mean? Which we did, you know. And it occurred to me that her voice was perfect, fucking perfect. You know, she was in a band called Life Without Buildings, very, well, you know, quite a low-key influential indie act from early noughties. And she's fantastic. She's the real deal. So, you know, that was more of a like, oh, and hello, here's a guest singer. But again, she just blends in with the sonics of what we do, you know. Gwendoline Christie was more of a celebrated feature, I think. But, you know, with people like that, the talent just takes care of everything else, you know what I mean?
Yeah, she opens up The Good Life, which just hits you with a punch, you know, with that laugh, you know.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And I love the lyric. You say, I'm not punching down, lads, but in reality, I am. Is that you calling yourself out or casting yourself in the act?
Well, it's kind of like, you know, slagging bands off because you don't like them, which is fine. But when you're repeatedly doing that, it starts to say more about you. And also what I found with public critique of bands, you do it once, it's fine, but, you know, it would then come back to you and you'd start feeling terrible about it. You've got this hang up about a band, but they're not the fucking problem. You know, they are not the issue. They're not the reason why you've got this hang up. There are some people that deserve a telling off. You know, they are constantly in rotation. Of course they are. You know, that's life, isn't it? You from time to time, a complete and utter wanker enters your life, and then nothing more than a complete and utter wanker. But, you know, there are some times where it's like more about you than it is about them. So the song discusses the motivations behind blanket criticism of other people. And Gwendoline's verse is my internal voice, where I'm like, I'm fucking miserable. You know, I'm waking up in a smelly bed surrounded by lager cans and dog ends, you know. I'm got all these mental health issues and I'm not responding to it. So that's what the song is. But Big Special's contribution is more of, you know, the ceiling to the good life. The roof of the song is me just going, you know, I'm living an all right life now. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as I said, it's a brilliant way to open the album. It just hits you with a punch. It's a fantastic track. But you said sometimes these things come back to you. Can you sort of talk about a particular time?
And in most weeks, you know, most days, I've got hang-ups about people. And it's like, you know, I think it's justified. But at the same time, a lot of thought goes into it and a lot of thought is spent on it, which I think says more about me, you know. It's about not being seen, not feeling seen. And I think there is a discussion around attachment theory of trauma, childhood trauma on multiple levels that is in some respects the basis for a lot of it. You know what I mean?
And you've got Noel Gallagher. He turned it into an art form.
He did, yeah. He did. You know, them lads did, and then they stopped when they realised that. Well, Liam hasn't. If you go onto his X account, but you know, it's not what it was with him. The venom isn't there. You know, and I think you do learn that the things change. You change. Your place in the world changes. You know.
Double Diamond, you know, it's an old track. What made you bring that tune back, and how different did it feel once Andrew rebuilt it?
Well, Claire, our manager, was always like, you need to bring Double Diamond back. And there's a few other songs from that old back catalogue before Andrew joined that we're going to look at doing, I think. I wouldn't mind anyway. You know, we did it with Job Seeker. Have we done any more? Can't remember. I think just Job Seeker. But obviously Job Seeker is a pinnacle track for us. But I wanted to bring Double Diamond back because it was written around the time that I was frequenting this nightclub. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I don't know. I think also it just fit with this energy that you know, I kind of feel at the minute, you know, that we've been talking about throughout this interview, and the spoken word kind of angle of it. You know, I've not sort of done for a while. So I thought I'd bring that back, really.
Alita's Goat featuring Aldous Harding. You know, this is where the album's sonics shift a bit. You know, what changed creatively at this point?
I gave Andrew the bass line, and I gave him a guitar line. The bass line we ripped off a Barry White song, and the guitar line, I just had some acoustic thing on voice note again. And I just said, can you do something with this? And yeah, that's what he did in this studio. You know what I mean? I don't think there's any guitar in it, actually, is there? There might be. I'm not sure. I can't remember. But yeah, I think it's just bass and keyboards with that drum beat. And it occurred to me that it reminded me of some diluted ska Northern Soul thing, mixed in with this vocal that I couldn't quite do myself, but I knew that Aldous Harding would be capable, more than capable. And luckily she was in England in April. So we got together in Bristol at Invader Studios and we did it there. It kind of reminded me of this Twisted Stereo Lab type thing, the song almost kind of falls into itself. It almost doesn't work, but it does. I'm really proud of that song. It's the best song for me, along with The Good Life, defo.
I love the lyric, remember that Daleks don't do escalators.
Yes.
The lines like that just fall out of you, or do you just chase them?
Yeah, they did. It literally did. I wrote that in the studio. I needed more verses. I had about 2 lines. I had the chorus for a while, and but I didn't have much verses, so I just wrote them there and then. You know what I mean? And I really like that. I really like that lyric as well, because it says a lot, doesn't it, about people with real stubborn sort of points of view, and they won't move from it. And it kind of tried to convey that, really.
Must talk about Gina Was. It's funny, dark, uncomfortable.
Yeah.
What was it like turning that childhood moment into a song?
Well, I love the 80s, and I love trying to conjure up songs that talk about my experience of the 80s. And that's been pretty much from the word go, really. But I think it hit a real stride with Mork and Mindy from Spare Ribs in 2021. So, I wanted to do something that kind of talked about that environment again, because I love it. It's so horror, so bleak and so shit. And the colours was just horrible. And it's just horrible. And then talk about this idea, when I was a kid, 5 or 6 girls pinned me on the floor and pulled my trousers down and said, you've got a small penis, and they used to call me Maggot Man, tease me at school. And it was fucking horrible. But I thought that was, together with this, enthusiasm for trying to concoct 80s imagery, I thought that was great. And the two things were really powerful and worked together. This isn't some fucking earnest statement about male rape or anything. This is more a conjuring a memory and making it really, really powerful, really immediate. And, the song talks about my entry into getting invited to parties at 14, what they used to call bottle parties, where you take your own beer. And, that's where I learned to smoke, you know what I mean? Somebody gave me a cigarette that night. And, that's it. Bleak, you're not giving, you don't stand a chance, do you? This kind of ode to that old working class culture that obviously still exists,
Does humour make it easier to talk about, those rough memories?
Yeah, of course, because, you got to stick it in there, because you have to laugh. We've always said, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry. You are, But obviously I do both of those things these days, and I feel better for it,
Yeah, in those days, those sort of things happened daily in school playgrounds, but if it happened nowadays, it would make the news.
I think so, yeah. Or would it? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's like the news is a bit like the radio, isn't it? It likes to play certain songs and tell you the brilliant, when, there might be a lot of other shit going on underneath. So you never know, do you?
It depends what news you watch, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
The unwrap, ending on online shopping, is genius. Why did that everyday moment, opening a parcel, feel like the right final image?
Because I spend all the album talking about all this profound stuff, and I don't mean to sound like a wanker, I mean, but it is quite deep stuff, and it's like done really well. It's written really well. I'm really proud of it. Andrew's really proud of it. And then I wanted to finish the song with a realistic portrayal of what I actually do. You know, I got sick and tired of all these wankers online making out that they're changing the fucking world, you know, doing speeches at fucking gigs or putting statements out on Instagram and like, just, you know, fuck off. And it's like, at the end of the day, we're all completely and utterly powerless. And so what is left, you know, all I talk about is buying new trainers, you know what I mean? The accomplishment, the one thing that I've managed to accomplish is that I've bought this pair of trainers, and I talk about it when I go outside. I talk about it at the gym. I talk about it online with people I don't know, bemoaning the state of the spare laces with a certain brand of trainer. And so I wanted to paint this picture of the reality of things. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The things that we actually contribute to, which is, let's face it, consumerism. You know what I mean? So I'm really glad that you picked up on that, because our manager said that that should be the last song. You spend all this album doing that, and she was fucking right, you know. So, you know, I've written it quite a while ago. But yeah, I love buying clothes. I love clothes, you know what I mean? But it is to also at the same time, you become jaded with it as well. You know, it's not the answer, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's nothing like that excitement of something you've ordered and waiting on it to come.
Oh, God, tell me about it. And I spent months ruminating on items, you know. And I've been told I can't buy anything else at the minute because I'm not earning money. So I'm not buying anything else, but you still look. You know?
You're bound to have had it. You're bound to have bought a sneaky pair of trainers.
Still looking, you know what I mean?
So, Jason, this is album 8, and as I said at the start, it feels like new ground. It is new ground. So how do you define what Sleaford Mods are now compared to when you started?
I think it's a lot better. I mean, it was good when it started, don't get me wrong, but I think it's more mature. You know what I mean? It's not better. I think it's just more mature. It's learned, it's older, there's a bit more wisdom there to it. But you know, we've been very lucky in the sense that me and Andrew are very tight, and like we just understand each other. And when it comes to writing new stuff, it's yes, it's difficult, but at the same time, we've got the tools in front of us already. We don't have to worry about egos, you know. There's no fights over, you know, we accept each other's contribution, and we also accept each other's advice and preferences, if there is preferences. So yeah, I just think it's carried on, and it's everything I could have dreamed of, you know what I mean?
People need to put their glasses on to catch the details in this album. What do you hope they notice when they listen closely to Planet X?
That it stands on its own, that it means what it says, that it's powerful, that they keep listening to it, you know. It's catchy, you know. I want it to be catchy for people, and we've written stuff in there that I believe is really catchy, more so than some of the other albums, you know. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how people receive it, you know what I mean?
You were talking about other bands there. Just thought about this. You know, you've said before that middle class bands nick your style. Have you heard anything recently that made you go, right, come on lads, that's ours?
Yeah, all of it, whether the middle class or working class. You can hear us in everything. And, you know, I think there's been a couple that have name-checked us, Viagra Boys, a couple of others, but generally nobody says a word. It's like, that's fucking us. You sound like me. So it's not even about class anymore. It's like, you should be careful what you wish for, you know. I find a lot of working class musicians just as annoying as middle class ones. Or do I find any of it classist anymore? No, you know, if it's good, it's good. You know what I mean? If they're a Nepo baby and it's good, then I'll listen to it. You know what I mean? Mm. If they were born in fucking Hampstead, I'll listen to it if it's good. It doesn't matter where they're from. I think it's getting like that more and more. There's obviously a debate around the unbalance when it comes to access for people from different parts of the societal ladder. But, you can just find yourself going around and around and around with this argument. And, middle class bands really aren't the problem. Do you know what I mean?
All right, let's bring it home. If civilization ended tomorrow, which Planet X track would be blasting from the last speaker on Earth?
Bad Santa, I think.
Good choice.
Yeah. It's got a real dystopian feel to it. I like the fact that a lot of people online have said it's not really, they don't really get it, which is great in some respects, and it's wound a lot of people up as well. The supporters of the culture that it attacks. So that's also a good thing, But, I'm at the point now in my life where I don't want to upset anyone that much, you know what I mean?
Was there a lyric in Planet X that you were genuinely scared when you wrote it?
Yeah. I'll shave your hair off and make you look like Ian Dunt, you cunt. Loads of them, actually, to be honest. But yeah, that one made me laugh, yeah. So random. And I've got nothing against Ian Dunt, by the way. He's done a lovely review for the film I'm in at the minute, Game. I'm co-starring in a film called Game from Invader Films. And he's done a really nice review of it. So sorry, Ian, when you listen to that lyric, it's not a dig at you, by the way, mate.
So after pushing it this far, do you see yourself stripping it back next time or going even bigger?
Don't know, whatever comes, whatever feels right. And I think it certainly showed me that we can work with bigger environments, musical environments, in the sense of, what instruments we put on the landscape. But yeah, I don't know. See what happens, I think it's just made me realize that we you always think, is this album going to be it? Because we've been going for 12 years. Is this next album going to be it? I'd be lying to anyone if I didn't think that, because you do it. I think most artists do think it. But I think I'm starting also to realize that you don't have to think like that. It's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? It can come good just because. It doesn't have to be, oh my God, it's a gamble. Yeah, sure, it's a gamble when you experiment, but that experiment usually works out because you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You've got a skill set already. You can cope with it, and you can find a solution. You know what I mean? It's a bit like fixing the tap in the sink, isn't it?
This section is album memories. So I'll just mention one of your albums and just tell me briefly what first comes into your head, a memory, a story, or whatever. So we'll go back to the first album, Austerity Dogs.
The beginnings of an excitement that didn't go away. I think, I couldn't let it. I couldn't let it in because I didn't believe it. I didn't quite believe it. I'd had so many years of unsuccessful projects, of failure, that I just couldn't quite believe it. But it wouldn't go away. It just hung around at the back of my head. And it was almost like a warm, it was like leaning against a radiator. Do you know what I mean?
Key markets from 2015.
Stress, I think. We had a lot to prove. That album was released after Divide and Exit, which kind of blew us up a little bit. As much as you could use the words blow up when it came to us, you know what I mean? But we became a lot more successful after Divide and Exit. So it was a bit stressful. It was trying not to listen to the voice. It was like, you don't cater for people, you cater for yourself, you know what I mean?
And last one we'll go for, Eaten Alive, from 2019.
Struggle of, I was lost. We'd lost our manager, or rather we'd parted ways with our first manager, and it really did change things for us. The album was written before he'd left, so that was done. But again, I believed that we were no good anymore. You had other bands coming up, Idols namely, and I felt like the moment had passed for us. But it hadn't, that again was down to my own mental illness, I think. So yeah, it was a tough time Eaten Alive, even though it was the highest position for an album we had so far up until then, you know.
Well, then let's talk about the last two. Spare Ribs, you know, Billy No Mates, the track with her, fantastic.
Yeah. Elation, absolute elation, complete surprise. I mean, I knew we'd done a good album, but it didn't occur to me that it would get the response it did. And it changed our fortunes. We became a bigger band, you know. Divide and Exit was the first injection. And then Spare Ribs was the second, you know what I mean? Commercial injection. So, yeah, who knows what's going to happen next, isn't it?
And then UK Grim, number 3 chart position.
Yeah. UK Grim was, for me, UK Grim was in the shadow of Spare Ribs, more like a continuation. But brilliant. But I don't know, it's hard, isn't it? People perceive albums differently, and it's like, but to me, Spare Ribs and Divide and Exit have been the tent pegs, you know what I mean?
If someone wanted to truly understand Sleaford Mods, which 5 songs should they start with?
Donkey off Austerity Dogs, Fizzy off Austerity Dogs, Tied Up in Knots, Job Seeker, Mork and Mindy.
Good choices, straight off the tongue. And finally, Jason, you know, we're coming to the end of the year. Do you have a favourite album of 2025 that really hit you this year?
Not really. I've listened to a few. I kind of appreciate them for what they are, but I don't know. I don't go back to them really. I like Lily Allen's new album. What else? That's it, I think. What else has been released that I quite liked? Cat LeBon's album, that's good. The new stuff from Dry Cleaning's good. The album's brilliant, by the way. It's really good. That's coming out next year, I think. What else? Thought. Yes, that's, you know, this. I'm sure there's other stuff, but I only listen to music through Spotify, and I know that's bad. You know, I'm not on any gig circuit anymore. I don't go out, and I think that is still the best way to find new bands. The hearsay, the grapevine, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, who knows? There's probably some out there I'd really like, but, you know, who knows?
And so what's next, Jason, for the band? Is everything started after Christmas? Are you doing anything before Christmas?
Yeah, loads of promo, mate. And then, you know, some in-stores, I think, but that's about it. And then the tour starts on February the 6th, I think.
Yes, you're coming to Belfast again, which I'm looking forward to.
Yes, yeah. Is it the Limelight Club? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Cork as well, I think.
Yeah, I think you're doing Cork the night before. It's either or.
Yeah, which sold out ages ago, and nobody told us.
Nobody told you.
Nobody fucking told us. People get in touch going, I can't get tickets anymore. I'm like, what? It's so bad. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's always a good laughing island, you know what I mean?
Well, Jason, this has been brilliant. Planet X feels like a world you've built. You know, you've taken us right into it today. So thanks so much for going there with me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on again.
Really, really appreciate it. Always great to have you. And yeah, have a good day. And I'll see you in Belfast.
Yes. Until then.
Take it easy.
Ta-da, mate. Ta-da.
Bye, Jason.
Bye-bye.